today by Limerick FC manager Martin Russell. Martin, thanks very much for joining us. First things first, congratulations on the league win.
Thanks, Rob.
So, over the course of the season, did you expect this to happen?
I think from the start of the season, we knew we'd assembled a really strong group of players that would make it a competitive squad, particularly for the first division. So we went into it knowing that we were probably the team to beat, and we needed to play, make sure that we played to the standard that we could achieve our goals, which was come straight back up. And we've done that now, please. Not only have we done it, but in the way we've done it, I think it's important as well. You know, we've been really attack-minded, we've scored plenty of goals, we've been entertained home and away, and as I said, the way we've done it as well as accumulating points has been very pleasing.
Speaking of assembling a squad, how important was it that you got that one or two key signings early on as the previous season finished? Like Freddie Hall signed on pretty quickly, Robbie Williams, DJ Shane.
Yeah. I think there was a nucleus of the lads that had been relegated, that had a desire and wanted to put things right and wanted to stay at the club. Particularly when the move came back into the markets field and the ball started rolling there and the potential that they could see. So they wanted to do their best to stay and come back. And then we added one or two fresh faces, which was needed as well. And I think the culmination of it, both had made a very decent squad for the first division.
Speaking of fresh faces, you added Aaron Green, you added Stephen Kenny, you added Chris Mulhall. How important was it to get the likes of Aaron Green and Chris Mulhall to actually drop down a division to play football with Limerick?
Yeah, I think they equally were aware of what was happening. You know, as being back in the markets field, seeing the run that the lads had gone on and the crowds that were coming, and Aaron played for Pats against us in the markets field. So he was aware, and Chris also, that Limerick was a club that wasn't going to be down there too long, and that they felt they could add to it and help, which they have, and get it back on a Premier Division footing.
You spoke of potential after moving back to the markets field. Can you elaborate on that? Where do you see this? Where do you see the grand scheme of things going?
Yeah, I think we're in Ireland, and you're looking around the country and you're saying which clubs have potential to be well resourced to give themselves a chance at competing for the European places, which again is where clubs can really build on. I've always said the likes of Limerick, Galway, Sligo, even you get onto your Waterford, you're waiting for people, because again, A, they've got a population, and B, there should be business people from the region that want to get it. And if you get those two things right, you've got the business off the field, which gives you a chance of getting the business on the field, which is to manage the proper budget, that you can get a decent squad. And I think when you get those two things together, you've got a real chance. And Limerick has always, for me, had that potential, as I said, as a number of other places. So I think we've definitely got it right last year for the first division, 100%. The thing is being equally well resourced for a challenge in the Premier Division, which is a more difficult task. And you only have to look at some of the clubs that I mentioned there that are in the first division but haven't threatened for European place this year. So it's going to be tough. But if you talk potential, why not Limerick?
Again, you spoke about the potential in the markets field. How important are the fans as much as the outside businesses?
Yeah, equally they're a big part, because without the fans, there's no game. And when we talk about the fans, the supporters, the volunteers behind the scenes, they all play a massive part in creating a match day environment that's really positive, that everybody enjoys, and just to keep the thing going, we need all those people to play their part. And I know the players particularly have enjoyed playing when we've had a full house, and there's been the positive vibes this year coming from the stands, and they've enjoyed that, and they relish that. So we thank the supporters and, as I said, people behind the scenes that are working to create that every match day.
Just on a side note there, as you mentioned, people behind the scenes, I went over to you Saturday night we were at the awards night, and I went over to congratulate you, and you stopped me and shook my hand and thanked me and said, first of all, we've got to thank our behind the scenes people. And it's funny, and I've said it to a few people, no matter where you are in the markets field, you seem to be the person that always comes over to shake somebody's hand to show mutual respect
Yeah.
per se. Where it seems that ranks really highly on your agenda, right? I've got to show respect to people.
No, listen, I do value. I think anybody that's been in the game a length of time knows that it's never a one-man show. Or, you need those people, extra people to help out, and say from people being there before a player enters the stadium to make sure that the thing is open, that as when the spectators are coming in, and the safety of spectators and everything's organised, and the match day entertainment, which creates a better match day occasion. You say the supporters coming in and singing. Everybody plays their part, and we have people down there that the maintenance of the ground, for example, the pitch has been recognised as a really decent pitch this year. That hasn't happened by accident. It's taken
the Barry Lynch
grounds people. It's taken grounds people like Barry, like Mick Murphy, to come down and make sure that it's repaired for the next game. And I don't take them for granted anywhere I go, and particularly not in Limerick. And I think everybody has played their part, and that's what I said is needed to be well resourced. That's what's needed to make the club as good as possible.
Seems everybody is putting in the same direction.
That's what's needed, and if you can get that, you'll have a chance. Definitely.
Speak about the final.
First
of all, would you have taken losing in the final and winning the first division at the start of the season?
The first division was always, the Premier Division was always the big thing, Another season for Limerick in the first division for me would be not good, and I was always, the number one priority was for the group when we sat down to start the season was promotion. Promotion first, and then cup runs second. And the cup runs that we had, particularly the EA Cup, was great experience, also a learning experience. We went to Derry, a very good Derry side, really played really well in a tough game, came away with a win. We fell short again. We also beat probably not as strong Premier Division sides in Wexford and Galway, because they mixed it up a little bit in the early rounds, but then came in the final against a good Pat side, and we definitely competed. We probably should have been 2 goals to the good before they scored their first one. And as they say, goals will always change games, and that's what happened there. They got back into it at the right time for them. We took a body blow. We weren't able to quite recover from that, but we'd done a lot in, particularly the first half of the game, to show that we could compete against them. And they know themselves that it was a hard-fought win for them.
I don't necessarily think 4-1 was a fair result.
No,
it's a body blow. They scored at the right time.
Yeah, the two late goals, for example. I mean, we were talking about if we can get one in the extra time, but Paulie was limping, and we no more substitutes. Yeah. So he's limping when they scored their last couple of goals as well. So we're down to nearly 10 men, and we threw men forward to try and find that equaliser. So the game went a bit skewed then, because we were trying to get back into it right at the death. But no, listen, credit to them. They stuck out. They could have been more goals behind. It fell for them on the day, as cup football can do. One-off games. We look overall, did we compete against them? I think we did. We probably had more chances and created more stuff going on in their final third in that game than we did in the FAI Cup game, which was the previous couple of weeks. Yeah. So for me, there was progress there, that we seemed like we could hurt them more. But failing that, we also realised, listen, there's reasons why we didn't win the game, and you try and look at that as you always do and say, listen, you're going to play them again. How could you again be prepared better? That you're going to give yourself even a better chance.
Yeah. You mentioned Paulie. How good has Paulie been this season?
Paulie, for the young centre half, is he's the first division's been good for him this year. He's been able to play a lot of games. Get more experience, and I always say to the 19s lads, if you can get first team experience, you can really learn from it. So I think Paulie's come on a great deal this year. He's still a young player. I think he's still got more progress to come, which is good for Paulie, and it's good for the club. And as always with young players, you want them to keep on working hard, keep on being humble, and knowing that they've got to do more to affect the real rewards that are in Ireland, and further afield. So as I said, Limerick at this moment in time, a Premier Division club, there's another couple of levels that Limerick needs to achieve, and Paulie being a part of that group has to progress with it. You know, so been really pleased with him. I think he's enjoyed it. I think he's worked hard to progress his game, and we'd be encouraging him to keep on doing that.
Yeah, it's great to see some of our 19s are getting game time. The likes of Ross Mann, Sean McSweeney. I know Liam McCartan and Clyde O'Connell. They've been on the fringes. Killian Bruder made his debut a few weeks ago. It's great to see that there is almost a conveyor belt of players now coming through that tend to say, right, if we're stuck or if one is good enough, let's bring him up.
Yeah, and I think to be fair to our about 19 players that have shown up in those games, the first division isn't beyond them. As I said, it is a level that is there. For me, in Ireland, there's still a couple of levels higher, but this year we were able to do that. When you have injuries, you have to do it as well. For example, we go into our last game with 3 suspensions, so there will be a 19th player or 2 that will get run out as well because of that. So, but for us this year, we haven't had too many suspensions at the wrong times or too many injuries at the wrong time. So we've had a clean bill of health most of it, but we've still been able to give some experience to the 19s, which, as I said, I think is invaluable to them. You know. Rather than playing always 19s football. Yeah.
You went on a massive unbeaten run. To think that it was just that step too far to go the entire season.
No, I didn't think it was. That's why we went on it. I thought it was doable. I thought the closer we got to it, the more doable it was. We had a bad night in Cole. Without making too many excuses, a couple of things went wrong. The pitch was very poor, very poor standard of pitch that sort of brought down to a level that made it very difficult.
To Finn Park last year.
It was Finn Park wasn't great either last year in the wrong time, but that's, you don't want to be saying, listen, every bad pitch we're going to lose. You can't say that either. But when you look at how, as I said to the lads, you know, they get spoiled with the Markets field. They're allowed to get the ball down and play. There's no excuses there. They'd have that excuse in a place like Cove if it was kept at that standard. It wasn't great, and then I think Duggan's sending off was not a sending off, and that was a poor time for us in the game. And you say the first goal, Freddie, unusual for him to be making such a clanger as well. So it was a culmination of things that went for Cove on the night, and they defended Cove. Their recent form, going away and winning at UCD. Has put them in, you know, now with a realistic chance of being in the playoff. And so it was always going to be tough. We never had an easy game down in Cove, and it was always probably one of the games that people would say, well, they'll do well to come out with something there, you know. So it didn't happen, but, you know, if you look at the rest of the season, you've got to be saying that the lads, I think, have represented both the club and the city in a tremendous fashion, and done ever so well.
Yeah. You mentioned Shane picking up 2 yellow cards in order to be sent off, or was it a straight red?
It was he got a straight red. He got a straight red for the tackle, I believe, which I thought was a yellow at best. It was harsh. That's why I found it that way. So unfortunately, we had to play. We're trying to get back into the game with 10 men, you know.
Against Drogheda last week, then we picked up another sending off in Chris, which from my point of view, I don't want to be getting you into trouble criticising any referees or anything, but from a fan's point of view, it seemed to be really, really harsh.
Yeah, the 2 yellow cards were you know, difficult decisions to take. If anybody was at the game would have seen them. You know, the first one, he was given a yellow card for not getting away from the ball quick enough. And again, I didn't see it clearly that instant, but you know, Chris usually, you know, he gets away quite sharpish. But the other thing was the penalty, where we thought it was a penalty and he was given for diving.
I actually don't think Chris himself agreed for a penalty.
I don't think he did. No, I think when you see it, he's moved the ball in a different direction. The keeper's going one way with his feet out, which, whether it's contact or not, Chris has to jump over it because he's in the way. Now, when you jump over, it doesn't mean you're avoiding an injury for a start, because if you stand up, you're going to get cleared. So he's jumped over to avoid the keeper who's nowhere near the ball. And they decided that as Chris trying to get a penalty, which it may not be a penalty, but it's Chris protecting himself. And it probably is closer to being a penalty than a dive if you take things into account. But he got a second yellow card and I sent off for it, and I felt again, listen, a little bit hard done by. But Chris again is another one that has played his part this year. And
yeah, that's what I was going to move on to. It seems you've converted him from more of a winger into a centre forward this season.
yeah,
And he's flourished.
yeah. No, I would have Chris on at UCD, but also on some coursework that we did down in Dublin. And he would have been, for me, more a central player than a wide player. But again, you have players like Chris that can dual role from time to time, you know. So I've always considered him as a player that could do something in the middle, holds the ball up well, works hard, you know. And he'll say he can do stuff on the right, which is where he sort of played most of his football for UCD last year before he came to us. But I've been pleased with his contribution, and he's really, you know, added to the group and worked hard in the group and been, you know, a good sign.
There seems to be a good balance in there now as well, with older players and younger players, or less experienced players, as we put it. You've got the likes of John O'Flynn, where Chris has moved up. I know there isn't many years between them. Chris won't like me saying that, but there isn't many years between them. But surely Chris has learned off of John O'Flynn the way Stephen Kenny will learn. I was shocked when I found out Stephen was only 22. I thought he was ancient.
Yeah, he looks a bit older than he is. But Stephen, again, another good sign. And I say all the lads, and I'm glad you mentioned as well, because he would have been one that's played a lot of games and contributed very much so.
The goal in Derry.
Yeah, and also his assists, the amount of times he would have put crosses in and good quality balls in, and you know, as well as some vital goals. He's been a good signing too. So I think the group has been, as you rightly say, they fed off each other, and they seem to get on as well. You know, they'll go for meals outside of training and stuff like that. There's a lot of common respect for each other, and I suppose what helps again when the group is winning and everything's in a positive fashion, that you know, it helps bond you as well. But they do things outside of the training that they all seem to get on and have respect for each other and the club. So it's been a good group, and as I said, they've been worthy winners of this division by a distance.
Yeah, I think when you've got the nucleus of players are hometown players, the likes of Dougie, Shane Tracy, Lee J, Paddy, then you can see it's almost a sense of, sure, they know their way around, they can bring everybody else in. Freddie has bought into it massively. Robbie the same.
Yeah.
It's great to see.
Yeah, all those lads, you know, they've all bought into what the club is trying to do, and I said, between the training and how they play, particularly how they play, which all revolves around the game. They couldn't have done much more about, say, possibly winning the Cove and maybe the A Cup final day, which is just, you know, would have probably been the perfect season. But to get what we've got out of the group is something to behold as well. They've had a very good season, so yeah, not just the fact that they won, but in the way they won.
Yeah, it seems to be, as I mentioned, you seem to play probably the second most exciting brand of football, and that's no disrespect to yourself. Dundalk are way ahead at the moment. Yeah, well, on results wise, definitely. You know, Dundalk, will be fair to them, do play a brand of football which is attack based as well. And, you know, they're a great example of, you know, where an Irish club can aspire to be, and the results in Europe this year again gives, you know, people food for thought, and say, listen, if we keep working hard, we maybe have experienced those days ourselves, you know. And I think, you know, for me, being an Irish lad, growing up in Ireland, I always think back to the day when I'd always say, well, you know, it would be great to have a real proper Irish team that could regularly play in Europe and play against the best in Europe. And maybe this year Dundalk have brought that another step closer. There's, you know, a hell of a long way to go. But if you can be a lad in Glasgow, a lad in London, a lad in Dublin, also say in other countries outside of Ireland, why not in Dublin? Why not in Limerick? That you can go and aspire to have a club that, you know, can have occasions like Dundalk are having this year. You can see they're getting really good crowds, which again goes back to the original point of having people to back you. Bums on seats and outside investment, because they've done so well. It seems to be catching on, and there's more fans, there's more investment. Yeah, Dundalk, you know, you think back 3 years ago when we were in the playoff against Waterford, and not so long ago, and you get 200 or 300 at that place, you know. These things, and they've had bigger days previously, back in the Jim McLaughlin days. When you talk about Dundalk, they've shown the way, and they've shown that it can happen quite quickly. If you think back to the Waterford playoff and the
low crowds that they were experiencing that year in the Premier Division when they were struggling. That's not so long ago, so they've shown if you keep at it, it can happen, and for everybody that's the goal now, to try and emulate and try and surpass what they're doing, I think.
Yeah, you spoke of crowds there actually. It seems we're averaging possibly between 8 and 1200 at the moment in the Markets Field for a first division side. That seems to be really good considering there's teams in Premier aren't getting that many numbers.
Yeah, but that's an issue again. I don't think the crowds nationally are very good. I don't think the game is in a good state at the moment nationally. You know, I think we all need crowds of 3,000, 4,000 to really make it a viable professional league, which from there you can build realistic targets like doing well in Europe and stuff like that. I think if the crowds would remain the same for everybody at the moment, the only ones that are really strong for me seem to be Cork and Dundalk on that level. You know, our crowds, yes, in the first division better than anybody else's, but doesn't mean you're going to be challenging for Europe.
Yeah.
And you got to remind yourself of what it's going to take, and that's why again going back to getting more support, how valuable that is, and you know, from people paying through the gates, buying jerseys, supporting the club financially, to get to the levels of Dundalk and Cork and teams that are doing well in Europe. We have a long road to go.
You can see though that there is a certain amount of growth there.
Oh, it's growth, definitely growth, and I think
kids walking around.
Yeah, and that's been great. Good point as well, because that's great when you're coming out and you're seeing these young kids wrapped in their scarves and you're saying, you know, they're coming to the games now and they're being brought by, particularly again going back to the Markets Field. I think a lot of that was due down to the generation thing where when the Markets Field got open, that a lot of the grandparents, fathers say, listen, I want to take the son, you know, the grandchild down and show them this place, and when they came down and they've seen something that they want to come back to, that's been brilliant, and we just need to keep growing that. It's vital that it keeps on growing. But as I said, that's a big part of going forward, that we can increase the fan base and get more people into the Markets Field.
Yeah, unfortunately I read a piece yesterday from Athlone that tomorrow may be their last game. There's serious talks of winding up afterwards.
Well, as I said to you, the game is not in a great state, you know, in the country. We need to do radical stuff, for me to give football the respect that it gets elsewhere in the world. You know, we treat it as a third-class game. For me, we don't do enough for professional clubs. We don't do enough for our young player that starts kicking the ball around the field to want to be a professional and get into proper academies, and that's all comes down to investment. You know, we don't have clubs that they historically shied away from investing in new players just to be able to pay senior players and to have some sort of a senior side. But I think there is a big question there of how much respect that we want to give the game, and it's a debate that can go on and on and on. But in one word, I remember going back to the Saipan document that was issued after that World Cup walkout, and the word was radical change. And whether you have the likes of Athlone still playing, or whether you have whatever teams set up in a professional league, there needs to be proper incentives, investment to make that league happen, along with more stuff done for producing the next international player, which starts from the age of 5, 6, 7 all the way through.
You mentioned incentive and investment. That seems to be a massive issue around most clubs.
Yeah.
It's great to say let's play here, but if you're not getting support from your governing body, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's a government body, government. You know, for me, we're going to something now, and I don't want too much because we won't stop it. There's got to be a political will to lift the game here. You know, whether it's been led by the governing body.
As you can see, the budget for sport has been cut already, sure.
Yeah, as I said to you, for me, football has not been given the respect as a game it would be given in another country. So if you're not being given the respect or the resources, then you're not going to do as well as the other countries that are given a bigger respect and bigger resources. You know, so that's the way I see it. It's always it's tough in Ireland because you're competing with other games as well to get your share of the handouts or whatever. But realistically, what Dundalk are doing this year are doing it in spite of probably what's going on, you know, and that's why it's even more credit to them. You know, when you think about they're going to play against the Zenits now, which have 160 million, whatever it is, budget. And, you know, I mean, for them to be competing at that level is tremendous.
Not only competing, but getting results as well.
Yeah, but to be there, right, get results as well. But the future of the game and how we continue to grow it and become a better product, more professional and more competitive is along the way.
Well, we've got Cabin GD tomorrow, so I've got to let you off to go training. Martin, thanks very much for sitting down with us.
Thanks,
See you again.
Okay, thanks.